Hello, how's it going? A little behind just because I was having those technical issues. So I'm just looking for my headphones. Um, so just bear with me for a minute. Hey, happy to, Aaron. I've got yours, and I've got another Kona in the mail, and I'm just trying to catch up on everything. Tonight I was going to work on a page, but I'm actually, after all that hullabaloo with the computer giving me issues, I'm just going to work on a sketch cover, and I'll show you some of the stuff from the Rhode Island Comic Con. I did the art for this year's badge. Hey, Jay. Yeah, that was the guest badge for 2023 at Rhode Island Comic Con. Pretty cool. I also picked up this sketch from Craig Rousseau. And yeah, this is of Kyra, one of his creator-owned characters with Rich Woodall. I really like that book. It's just a quick little sketch, nice pickup. And I'm sure we'll bring this out once Jonathan comes back in. But actually, this is by one of my good friends, and it's one of our regular viewers and chat members is Jonathan. Jonathan Brown drew this for me, and yeah, we did a little trade, and I love it. I thought he did a very nice job putting it together. But yeah, it's original sketch cover. I love when people who don't normally draw make an attempt. But can you hear me okay? Is the audio okay before I get going? One thing that was interesting about the convention was that I put this sign. Okay, let me try to hit the reset. Hold on. Does that sound better? Is that better audio? Does that sound more like me? Here's Aaron's piece that I finished the other day, and he posted in the Conan group. We worked on it on a few of the streams. Figured I'd show the excellent, much better. The finished product. These are actually able to come off. These were for a custom message that he wanted for he and his lady friend. And they just come off real easy. It's got a acid-free tape with it so that it's like a low tack. Oh, thank you for letting me know, Daniel. But yeah, we did that. We did that on the stream. And I was actually, my next door neighbor was Craig Russo, and he gave me the artwork for his Undersea Hero cover. So that's the premiere of the finished piece. You can see Krakus, and he's busting the logo. Absolutely beautiful. Love the energy, the movement. I love Craig's work. And it was one of two originals. Here's the original for Joe St. Pierre's cover for Undersea Hero. Joe did a great job with the giant chin. I thought he did and of course he worked on Aquaman. They both did Aquaman. Craig did an Aquaman cover in Justice League, and then Joe did an Aquaman single issue, and he did the Cousteau books. And we got ourselves the little drumming octopus right there. Love that. The whale, manta rays, barracuda. And then we got his version of Krakus. interesting. I'm enjoying seeing the different versions. There's Craig's version of Krakus, and then there's Joe's version. Very cool. And I had this sign out on my table. I did not point it out to anyone. I did not direct anyone to it, but I had the ask me about Undersea Hero and get a free print and sketch at my table. And I only gave away 4 original sketches and prints. Only 4 people read the sign, and it was right, if you look at my pictures, it was right front and center on the cover artwork there. So interesting little experiment at the convention this year. But I was next to Craig, and we had a great time. We were catching up, chatting about artwork and comics and all sorts of things. Jay Kennedy, who's in the comments section, was my other next door neighbor. And I would say that watching my hands. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that, Daniel, but I've got stuff on them. I've got pencil lead on them. Oh, you mean at the show? I got you. Yeah, I had it right there. I just wanted people to ask me about Undersea Hero. I promoted it on here some. I saw lots of really excellent people. I was actually hoping someone from the, I follow one of those sketch price groups, and they always put pictures of different artists, like what their sign at their table says. And yeah, nobody took a picture and posted it in there. I didn't feel it was right to post my own signage. I didn't know if it would be considered self-promotion at that point. I think they had rules against that. Jay's in the comment section, and actually, if you just message him directly, I'm sure he can. He'd be happy to mail you something. I mean, there were some people that I haven't seen in years, or didn't see very often. Don McGregor, phenomenal writer of Killraven and Black Panther and Ragamuffins and Saber. Probably the most famous comic book creator from Rhode Island. I have to find my eraser now. I was all messed up from the technical difficulties getting this off the ground tonight. Was messing me up quite a bit. So just bear with me a little tonight. We're just going to take it easy and chat, because this will be the there will not be a stream next week. So it'll be this week, and then 1 week off, and then we'll come back the following week. Maybe we'll do one on the weekend or something if I get my studio set up in time, but probably not. Might have left my eraser at the office. Let me go grab another one. 1 second. Always good to have a pile of the stuff that you use all the time. These are just regular rubber erasers. They're nothing fancy. Always have to have backups on this stuff. Seriously. Partly because I lose things. Oh, this one's pretty good. Nice fresh eraser. I did a pretty nice job. With the move and everything going on, it's been a little bit of tough drawing lately. Even at the convention, I was struggling just because it's just so stressful. Hey, Peter. Peter was at the convention this weekend. It was nice catching up a little bit. Another excellent artist from the area. Bill Wacko, I saw him he came by, was hanging out. The ever kind Ron Mars was our like kind of in our cul-de-sac of artists in our little section there. I think he was the only writer in our little area. They had Christopher Priest was there, Dennis Cowan. But I've really just today and a little bit yesterday really started to get my feet back under me as far as drawing goes with after the convention, and then I finished a few pieces at work, and things have been starting to click together, at least from a creative perspective, because sometimes I just I don't know, my brain gets ahead of my hand, and I'm thinking about the lines that I should be drawing rather than the ones I am drawing, and it's just this interesting uh, thought exercise just going on instead of actually drawing. Desiree said she went to 2 comic book stores at lunch to hunt down the new What If written by Marv Wolfman. I saw him post about something like that. It looked like he was writing more Tomb of Dracula, and that's actually my favorite stuff that he's ever written. Did you find a copy? Are you going to read it tonight? Did you get a chance to read it? That's one I would pick up for definitely. Definitely. I mean, I know Gene Colan's not around anymore, so it won't be drawn by the dean, but I would definitely read it. Trying to think if there's anybody left that worked on any of that stuff. Oh, they had a variant cover. Cool. Yeah, that's one I would definitely pick up to read if it's more like it's like a what if sort of Tomb of Dracula thing. Because the complete run of Tomb of Dracula with him and Gene Colan and the endless list of different inkers that would fill in when Al Williamson was doing like 10 books a month or whatever it was at the time. There was an Ernie Chan inked issue, I remember. There was trying to remember. There were a handful early on. I think one was inked by Don Heck. That was fascinating. When he would ink other artists, it was interesting. They're so good. They're so good. If you like supernatural, and it's not super horror-y, it is a little bit. I don't know. It's fantasy. I mean, And for people in, in the New England area where I'm, based out of, like those Morbius comics actually supposedly took place in the Marvel Universe version of Boston. The one comic store I went to was sold out by lunchtimes. They opened at 11. I was there after noon. The second one was just putting theirs out, so I snagged my copies. Very nice. I'll have to look to see who the artist was. I mean, it would be wonderful to get somebody like Bill Sienkiewicz and or Dennis Cowan. There's so many fantastic artists out there that would do a great job on a horror book like that. But overall, it was a good show. Um, I actually sold a piece of cover artwork, which will go to just like the last time I had to move, to expenses around that. Most likely, or I did one of those two things. I sold the inks to the TMNT Ghostbusters #1 cover. Total impulse buy. The guy brought the book over to my table to get signed, and I was like, "Hey, I've got the original if you want it." Never, assuming that they're gonna want to buy something like that expensive, but he saw it, fell in love with it, and bought it right on the spot. So it was really excellent. I don't like selling my originals, but when I need a few bucks for like bills or stuff, I'm glad people support me that way. It's really nice. I have one commission I have to finish from the show, and I had to find more. They sent me some reference, and it was characters that I didn't know at all. Um, One of them was a video game character, the other one was like an anime character, and it was just totally out of my wheelhouse. And it was one of those where it's like, do I take this on knowing it's probably gonna look like just one of my drawings? I don't know. Maybe that's what they want. I never know with those sort of odd requests what they're looking for. I know some people just collect their favorite character drawn by as many different people as possible, which I think is cool. I'm hoping they're not looking for like me to make it look exactly like the video game or exactly like the anime, because you folks know. I mean, you've seen my stuff long enough. My stuff does not look like most video games or anime when I'm just drawing. Like, if I have to follow a style guide, I'll find a way through it. But just for a little commission, I don't know if I can do the style guide level of work. Jay is doing his impression of Boston Vampire, so I'll just spotlight that. So if you just want to read that comment in your most Boston accent from The Departed, or you know, what was the other one? Summer Catch, was that what was the one with the Red Sox the year they won the series, and Jimmy Fallon? I don't know. Fever pitch, says Jay. Fever pitch. Sorry, I don't have that one. I have Celtic Pride on DVD, the Dan Aykroyd, Daniel Stern film from the 90s. Jay had his Archie covers. Those seem to be doing pretty well for you at the show. Seemed like they were going pretty good. Rhode Island traditionally is a celebrity-driven show. They had tons of celebrities, but they had a fair number of artists that did, and I did pretty well. So I appreciate having the spot, and Bergie gave me a good spot. He's the floor manager, so all around good. Went to Trinity Brew House for the first day, and then actually went to one of my favorite Italian restaurants in Providence as a closer, because we had such a night. I had a good weekend, so went out to dinner twice. Don't usually do that, but wanted to celebrate, so went to Rosalina. Had a really nice meal. Overall, it was fun. There was some internet hullabaloo prior to that I had completely missed, basically, until I got there. It's because I've been so busy lately. Oh, did you see this? I really didn't. Or if someone PM'd it to me or whatever, I probably just avoided it because I've been so busy and getting up so early lately. Yeah, Joe had a good weekend. Seemed like he had a good weekend. He was crashing at my place, so you know we would ride in the mornings together and chat and talk art, and I always learn stuff from Joe. He's got a ton of experience. We did a panel on Sunday, and it was pretty well attended. I gotta say the Making Comics panel always has excited young creators, and like that's who it's for. Well, not just young, just excited creators. That's really, if somebody wants to make a comic at their first comic at any age, they should have resources to help them do that. Lots of questions about like ideas, and lots of questions about the difference between animation and comics. There was one person who was had like a major in animation and was trying to make their first comic book, which was interesting. It was one where I wish Alex Cormack was there because he actually has a background in animation and then switched to comics. So like if I had a phone a friend option on that panel, but it was Joe, Craig, and myself, and Craig and Joe did exceptional. Had lots of insights to give people, answer questions, and when talking about the creative process, Joe and I, in the course of the panel, realized we all approach the thought process just a little different, even though we have some of the same training and skills. There is a correct way to do perspective, but just the idea of what we picture going onto paper before we start. And Craig said that he doesn't really see anything at all. As far as like, some creators, it's just basically like tracing a picture. And Craig said he didn't see anything when he would be starting out a picture. He just has ideas and then kind of shapes it as he went. And then Joe said he has like a crystal clear idea of what he wants to draw, like a picture that he's trying to trace, like translate to his hand. And then I kind of fell in the middle where like I have an idea of what things look like, but like I definitely go by feeling when it comes to direction and refinement of the piece. That's what the sculptural element, like you can see, like when I start, it's not where it starts, it's where it finishes, and you'll see little changes as I go. I think we should just have like a spotlight on the fellas. What do you think? That's easy lighting, like a nice strong single light source. Make this easy on myself after all those technical issues. I am not an IT person. Like I have always needed help in learning this stuff. Like my friend Eli taught me how to do this streaming platform that I use every week to talk to you nice folks. Because I think when I did it, a long time ago, for the first time I had no idea. It was just, oh, it's easy. Watch a YouTube video and you'll be an expert. Nah, I needed a little extra help over that. And he provided it. He was such a nice fellow. Now he's on to bigger and better things in the world of video games. I'm hoping to do a show out in one of the cities near where he is, so I can go visit him. That's one of the nice things about conventions is it lets me see some of my friends that I don't get to see the rest of the year, or often at all. One announcement I should make for my fellow creators: open enrollment for creators for San Diego is open. So if you have done your credentials, you can apply for next year's badge. I don't know if I'm going, but I will probably apply for a badge just so that I have it in case an opportunity presents itself. Unlikely, but I just want to be prepared. Better to have the badge and not need it than to need it and not have it. It took me until today to really be comfortable back drawing again and just knowing where my spatial relationships go, like the proportionality. I was fighting that for like the entire weekend at the show, just like how one shape relates to another, and I just didn't have any confidence. I don't know why. I was just nervous, hadn't done a show in a while. Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on, but probably just everything that's been happening in my life lately. How's everybody else doing tonight? We have some people who bought some comics. We had some people who were at the show. It's my last show of the year, so I might be doing an artist appearance at a bookstore later in the year, but I don't know. And there's a possible comic book signing in December. I'm still working that out. Ugh. But as far as conventions go, done with conventions for the year. We'll have to start booking for next year, even though like they expect you to book more than a year in advance for some of these things. So may have already missed the cutoff for some of them. Got a fair number of folks in the stream. But I'll keep rambling on. Right now, I'm just tightening up the blue lines just a little bit as I go. It helps me to better prepare for inking, so I have a little bit more precision to my line art, because this is a cartoonier looking character, and the line art's got to be a little tighter than if I'm just goofing off. Which most of my drawing, the last couple of days, has just been like trying to knock off rust and goof off a little bit to try to get comfortable. Actually, I need to fix that lighting. It was spacing out. I don't know why I did that. The lighting's up there. We gotta have our light sources over here. It's going that way, so it's actually gonna go. The chin should go like this, and then we should have that part mostly blacked out. I had hoped to launch the Kickstarter next week, but it is not happening. It's probably going to be Thanksgiving weekend. That's my new goal. And if that doesn't work, it will be the last day of the month, because I still have to go to a bank and deal with some of the financial stuff I got to get on the back end of the Kickstarter. I'm not worried about getting the end of the graphics done or anything like that. I have to get the other stuff that Kickstarter makes you have all set and ready to go. Yeah, there's so much stuff that goes into it that nobody sees, that like it works, so people don't even think about it. I'm guilty of it. I'm not projecting. I knew that there was a financial end to all of it, but I didn't know how in depth it had to be, especially if you have like separate stuff for your business, which I try to do whenever possible. And I have already seen like Christmas decorations out, and that's just I love people who know me know I enjoy the holiday season a great deal. But let's pump the brakes, people. Let's pump the brakes. I thought we all had an agreement that it was like when Santa Claus shows up during the Thanksgiving Day parade, then it was, fair game after that point. I thought that's what the social contract was, but I guess not. I guess I was mistaken. Michael's fixing up some pages for a portfolio review. That's nice. Good luck with that, man. I'm sure you'll do well. You taking it to a convention, or do you have a online portfolio review going on? Or? I will say that technical stuff really threw me for a loop. Michael says there is another artist who is looking up to 3 pages for a portfolio. I'm picking 3 pages from my current book I am working on. Very cool. Yeah, it's pretty neat that there's so many more resources like that available. We were talking about this at the panel at Rhode Island. Was that between YouTube and Twitch and all these other online video tutorial resources and just archives, like you can see more artists working now and like get more tips and stuff than when I was a kid or when the other gentlemen were coming up, when Craig and Joe were coming up, because it was like finding the books. It was all books, at that point, pre-internet, of like the material that would help shape which direction your art would go, you know? Just finding the resources was so much harder. I'm not saying it's easy to get people to look at your work now, but just finding some of those like self-guided resources is a little easier. I know we've traditionally drawn Crackus with a martini, but he is not exclusively a martini guy. He just likes a fancy drink, so we're gonna give him a little tropical drink this time. The little umbrella. I enjoy a well-made Mai Tai once in a while. One thing I noticed on Craig's version of Crackus that I thought he nailed was little triangular bit that goes in front of his eyes. He exaggerated it quite a bit from what I do, but I don't know. I liked it. I liked the little different bits. Joe's looked like a real cuttlefish, like it was like textbook. Just different approaches, you know. Joe'd been drawing the Cousteau Society children's graphic novel books, so he'd been doing tons of research for years on those things. I was like, Joe, you can draw my character, and it'll combine your superhero work with your Cousteau Society work. Sometimes I lose track of what I'm doing a little bit, and I have to kind of reset visually. In order to do that, I'll just pull back and take a deep breath and then see where I'm at. Some of the other folks in the chat. There's Jonathan. There's the author. There's the artiste. I was showing off your sketch cover. Pretty great. Nice, all the little detail. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love it. Yeah, Isaiah. Jonathan drew it for me. That's right. You can bug Jonathan with commission requests for Transformer characters. Only the OG ones, though, right, Jonathan? You don't draw the Beast Wars or any of those. You just do the. Continue our line that way. Hey, Kevin, how are you? Good to see you. I know I owe you a message. I'm sorry. I've just been running around like a crazy person. Moving jobs, conventions, Kickstarters. It has been absolutely bonkers, but I hope everything is good with yourself and Sharon and everybody. out in your neck of the woods. Miss you too. Glad you could pop in and say hello. What time is it? It's about 9 o'clock. We're not going to go super long tonight. After the stress of getting the stream working, I'm just glad everybody popped in. I could tell you about Rhode Island, show off some of the beautiful artwork I picked up. Showed off the original covers for Craig. And for Joe, in case you missed those, Kevin's also a big undersea fan, so of the real one, like the ocean, not just my silly comic book. He's gone scuba diving with many a fish. All right, let's get our tiny little pen so it's easier to. I was asked about the inspiration for Undersea Hero's hair because they thought it was interesting with like little tendrily bits. It was definitely the Jim Aparo Aquaman years. His hair was always moving. Kevin, we've been talking RI Con. I'll give you the lowdown. It went pretty well. You know, I was next to Craig Russo and Joe St. Pierre and Artist Alley and our buddy Jay Kennedy, I think he's been floating around the comments section. Sold some artwork. Actually sold the cover, so my moving expenses will be a little easier, or my dental bill, whichever one it has to go to first. I mentioned on some prior streams I had to get some dentistry done. Have I recovered from the weekend? I would say no, but the caffeine is going to get me through the week, I would say. I still, at this stage in my career, I wish I could take a day off, but I can't. So, and it's getting harder and harder to bounce back for sure. Jonathan came and hung out at the booth and the show for Sunday, which was great. Always good to hang out and have a little help around the booth. We did, Kevin. We did. We're actually going to be moving. Not gonna mention the zip code or anything on the stream, but we did. We actually got a nice place, and yeah, I'll post a picture at some point, as long as I can post it without it being, giving away our location, I guess, to the internet. I'll at least send you something. I'll send you a picture. I'll at least get a picture to everybody of the studio when it's set up on the inside. There will be a separate room for that, which is really, really nice. Camille appreciates that because it'll get, most of the art mess and stuff out of any other common areas. Yeah, I mean, it didn't have a ton of comics as far as like old and cheap ones like we like to buy. There were artists that had artwork for sale at their booths. Like I said, I bought that sketch cover from Joe or from Craig. Just a quick little head sketch of one of his creator-owned characters on one of their custom blanks. Real nice. That sketch cover had been in. Oh, absolutely, Kevin. I'll be happy to. It's very, very nice of you. That sketch cover had been in his bin for $10 for like a year at least, maybe multiple years. And I kept saying, "Oh, that'll be a great first drawing for somebody to buy." And I just said, "Screw it. It's coming home with me." Love the character. It was in Dark Horse Presents, actually. Kyra, the alien jungle girl, was in Dark Horse Presents for um, I don't know, 10 episodes, 12 episodes. And then they did a Kickstarter for the collected edition. And I did a pinup for that one. It's a very fun book. It's Kyra, the alien jungle girl. It was written by Rich Woodall. So a lot of the people in the comments or the in the stream will know one or both of those fellows. They're in this region. Kevin says it's way cool how much I appreciate everyone's work. I'm just blown away by so many people's incredible skill and the variations and the different approaches. Yeah, Craig and I and Joe did a panel together where we talked about, it was the Making Comics panel. I'd done it in Colorado and other states and stuff. And it's really geared towards helping out the young folks and the people who have questions about making comics. And if they don't have questions, I just ask whoever's on the panel with me a zillion questions because I want to learn from them. Pick their brain. It was interesting that like Joe, I mentioned this earlier, has like a clear picture in his head of what he wants to draw, and he's trying to like translate that. And then Craig has no image in his head when he's trying to draw. He's just thinking of concepts and shape. And then I was kind of in between where like I have an idea of what something looks like, but I'm trying to get how it feels to match up with the feeling I want. And it's really hard to describe because I'm not looking at a reference photo for that part if I have one for any sort of piece that I'm working on. Like a piece like this, I don't have any reference for. Peter says, shout out to Rich Woodall. He's great. Give the spotlight to Rich there. He's probably not watching, but I could let him know that he was appreciated. Jonathan said he was in on that Kickstarter. I liked what it was, wish there was more. I agree. They actually had ideas for where it would win. I don't want to give away the ending, but like, there's a clear path for those characters going forward. There was a part where I was very sad in that story. I probably told you about it at some point, but I don't know. I don't want to give, even though it's like, it's like at least how old is it now? Probably 7 years old now. I got to add extra years because I forget about the COVID years, but like it's not a new comic, but it's not super old. Ben asked, who I also saw at the show, Ben Hellman. How many blank covers did you buy at Rhode Island Comic Con? Just the one. I really didn't buy much. I don't go to too many. I don't go to that many shows when I'm set up and buy a ton unless I have a great show and there's lots of stuff to buy. When I was at a Gem City show a few years ago, I did really well, and I did well early. So like for that entire show, when I would get up and walk around, I was going to like every booth in Artist Alley, and if anybody had like a single issue comic to buy, I bought one from everybody. Um, Kevin asked if I'm doing New Orleans again. I would like to, but I don't know. I'd have to reach out to the Fan Expo people and find out. That was a great show. I really liked it. Um, you know, my wife has some family in the area that she can visit, and I do the comic show, and I go to get some food from Dat Dog, one of my favorite hot dogs on the planet, with their homemade rolls, some of their house-made sausage. Have to go every time I'm down in New Orleans. Ah, yes, Kevin brought me a muffaletta sandwich to my booth. A very famous New Orleans sandwich. I couldn't finish it. It was a gigantic sandwich. I think that's like a two-person sandwich. You need like a sandwich co-pilot on that thing. I also loaded up on blank blank sketch covers a few shows prior. It might have been last year. There was a booth that had an entire long box of sketch covers, blanks, for like I think they were $3 a piece. And if you bought a bunch, they were even cheaper. I bought a bunch there. Kevin says I can't hear you, but he's laughing. Well, and we went to that fancy steakhouse in Colorado Springs this trip. I had that fancy dessert. It was fancy peaches. Yeah, like stone fruit. That was good. It's very good. Don't know if I will be back at Colorado Springs because I am no longer working in the office for that company. So it just depends if they want to bring me as a guest or if they hire me to do some work for that show. who knows? But I'm definitely looking to do some new shows, maybe some of the ones that I haven't been able to do in the past. So, maybe I'll do Denver instead of Colorado Springs. Kevin says he might have a proposition for me, so we'll see what happens. But I did mention if people are considering, if there are any artists that filled out their credentials for San Diego Comic Con, now is the time to apply for your creator badge. Don't know if I'll be there. Just it's one of those where it's like there's no harm in having it because they issue, free badges if you qualify as a creator. I bet I'm still helping out. I'm just, and I've offered to do work for them going forward, but I just won't be working in the office. Yeah, I mentioned it some time ago. Entirely up to them, but got a new gig. Got paid today, which that's always good. Kevin says he's toying with the idea of hosting an artist at the Hammerhead Ink booth in Las Vegas. I have never been to Las Vegas, but I hear it's a great show. I'm not sure when it is, so I'd have to look at the calendar and stuff. That would be pretty cool though, if we could swing it. I wonder if people in the desert would be into Undersea Hero. Because we'll know by then if it gets funded. A Wednesday payday, yeah, yeah. I was a little confused as well, but hey, however they want to do it, that's fine. It sounds like Hammerhead's going to be doing some conventions, which is pretty cool. That means you got to be almost done with that giant inventory you were working on. So Sharon must be pleased. Sometimes when these pens get a little wore out, it's a little tougher to do the finer line transition. When they're new, they're real easy. But when you're getting into where it's gotten worn down a little bit and the flex is there, you have to slow down a little bit or speed up. You have to go one way or the other. You bought another collection, Kevin? What are you doing? Let me know if you get any good Charlton 60s or 70s horror stuff in there. Gotta wonder if you got much in the way of Charlton out in your direction, just because it was based out of Connecticut. I know there was a distributor down in Mississippi or Alabama, so there was a southern distributor, but I don't know if it got as far west as you guys are. Michael says he loves these pens. I've left microns altogether recently to find them a new home with some friend. Yeah, when I stopped using markers, I actually gave them all to Jay. I gave all my giant bucket of markers of miscellaneous Copic and Prismacolor markers, which I will probably never go back to markers unless somebody requires it or gives me free ones for a job or whatever. Kevin says he got a ton of Charlton in his first collection, mostly war. I was never into war comics. I like some of the anti-war comics, and I actually like some of the Charlton romance comics. There's some gems in there drawn by Jose Garcia Lopez. Some of his first work was in some of the Charlton romance comics. Tom DeFalco has some hidden gems in like I think it was Scooby Doo comics from the when it was at Charlton. It was one of the animation tie-ins. First John Byrne was in Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch. Ben asked if I've seen the new Alice Cooper comics. I haven't, but I've heard some people talk about them. Are they good? I haven't looked at an Alice Cooper comic in a very long time because I enjoy Alice Cooper's like music commentary these days, but I got to be honest, I haven't bought an Alice Cooper album since I was very young. I know to a certain demographic, he's iconic step in the rock and roll ladder. Michael says, I love the old EC war comics, and they were pretty much all anti-war. Yep, yeah, they absolutely were. The Harvey Kurtzman stuff, very anti. Blazing Combat, yeah. I've tried to go back and read some of the stuff, either the Glanzman stuff or the Joe Kubert stuff, and it's sometimes with the Kanigher scripts, it's tough. Because I felt like even though he had some anti-war messages, there was still some of that very macho, John Wayne-esque stuff that I'm not into. Not a John Wayne fan, no. No, I am not. I know I'm biased, but I love the paper on these covers. I picked out good paper stock, so if anybody ever gets a chance to draw on one of these. Kevin says, very young. You say that like you're an old man. You're a kid at your heart forever. I'm not that old, but I am definitely starting to feel some things are getting a little tougher than they were at, 25, let's say. Andrew says, hello, Ian from Illinois. Hello, Illinois. And Andrew and all parties of that Midwestern area. I would love to get back to a show in Chicago. That would be fun. The last show I did in Chicago was in like '04. I was supposed to go back this past year, but I just didn't have time. I actually had an appearance booked and I had to cancel it. Although let's be fair, I did more shows this past year than I had done in many years. Got out there. Went to Cleveland, went to New Orleans, went to San Diego without, a company backing. It was all with well, that's not true. Arsenic Lullaby. Our pal Doug, he helped me out a ton with that show. It wouldn't have been possible without his help. And he was the one that really got us the approval for Undersea Hero to be an official debut at San Diego and get the little badge on it. Super nice of him to do all that extra work. C2E2 would love to do it. Never done it. Ben asks if I've ever drawn with paint markers, and I have, but only on like weird surfaces. Like I've had people ask me to draw on like pops and stuff, and they'll actually have the paint markers. I had a couple of guys who asked me to draw on those, have their own markers to draw on them, which I'd never had that happen before, but you know, I told them since they were new, it might be a little rough, but in the end, they were happy. I gave it a whirl. For a while their pops were like just everywhere. Kind of glad that's kind of starting to go away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kevin says, try starting a comic company at 60. I don't know if I'll do that, Kevin. I think I'll stick with my little silly little Fat Cat Funnies label for as long as I can. But if I need to sell my collection, I'll give you the phone call first. I got good stuff. Uncanny X-Men 1, Giant Size 1, all the major Uncanny appearances. Michael says, for my 11 by 17 pieces, I use the Strathmore 500 plate. For 9 by 12, the only option I have are the sheets of the 300 series with the smooth surface. Yeah, I use the cheaper Bristol. I really do. The 500 series is wonderful, but like I have found with the way that I draw, no discernible difference. And for watercolors, I actually, when I can afford it, I buy the Strathmore mixed media paper. That stuff's great if you're doing big washes. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing them on my regular paper. Kevin says I will never part with my comics. You never know. It's probably, as much as I would hope that to be true, you never know. If I have to buy a car or something, it's like the only assets I have. I would keep the art over the comics, like that's for sure. Like my art collection, if it's possible. And I can't take them with me. That's the other thing. Kevin says he'll lend me the money. This has been a fun sketch to do. I'm real glad you guys are here to share it with me. No pressure, just my two friends who I've enjoyed working on their book right now. Just having a nice little meetup. To get my white out there. Well, made a little mistake. Little whoopsie doodle. Oh, thank you, Desiree. She says she's enjoying watching and listening. My voice is back from the weekend, which is good. I usually lose it during the course of a convention. I sound like I've been hiding a 3-pack a day smoking habit after a convention. No, I've never been a smoker. I've had a handful of cigars in my life, but only for special occasions. One thing that was actually nice about cleaning up my studio while packing it for moving is I actually found some excellent stashes of blank paper and art supplies that I forgot about. So I will definitely not have to buy some things for a little while. It was a surprise. Like I opened this one drawer and I moved all the stuff that was on top of it, and then underneath there was like a whole pad. There were some little bits of sketch paper. I was like, oh man, it was one of those where I think I've mentioned this to most people I know. If I put something in a safe place, it's gone. It's gone for some time, and then I'll have to stumble upon it. If it gets funded, I may have a cigar. It was finding a treasure. It was like when you find $10 in an old jacket. Like it was a invigorating moment. I always thought that Harvey Pekar did a great job of writing those moments. There's one particular story where Harvey, not being a particularly handy person himself, was trying to fix a toilet in a bathroom, and he actually does fix it, and he just looks up in the sky and yells, "I am a man today," just out of guttural glee for having done this small domestic task on his own. And maybe he just was happy he didn't have to pay a plumber to fix it. I don't know. That was another aspect of Harvey's character that he wrote about himself. The funding goal for the book, I believe it's going to be $2,500. It might be $3K. I'm just doing some final number crunching on some of the larger shipping items, which has been a bit of a challenge. I just don't want anyone to feel like they're getting overcharged for the shipping. So I've been building phony boxes and like getting shipping estimates for things, and then I have to connect the all the banking stuff to the back end, and I've got a handful of other images I have to finish, and then we'll be good. You know, I think if I could spend one weekend just doing that, I would be done, but I just haven't been able to. So it's been like a slow drip, which has been kind of infuriating when things take a little too long. I'm gonna see if I got my ink vial here. At least, is there any ink in this? Okay, good. We'll be able to use that. I think my yeah. Let's get a ruler. I have my oval template. There we go. Very important for funny book makers. One of these with the oval shapes for the balloons makes things a lot easier. And then we just kind of pick the one that fits best. And we get our marker. Kevin asked if I need more scuba-isms, which are fun facts that Kevin is providing. Not before the launch of the Kickstarter, but if the funding is successful, I think I might need a few more. I will compile the ones you've sent me, and then I will work with you on that if we're lucky enough to get that to that point. Try not to count my chickens before they're hatched. I've got a lot of really nice people in my corner, like yourself and Desiree and everybody here in the chat, and then some people that aren't here, like Brian and everybody that said they were going to back it, but I don't. I don't want to be too presumptuous. These things are difficult, and some of my friends have had a hard time, and I don't want to presume to think that I can just waltz right into it. I actually just had a friend who did not make his funding goal recently for one of his projects. And then I have another one who has his project up right now that I have to back before Friday. And I just needed to get my paycheck. And I know that you can, um, put your bid in or whatever for your reward for the backing before you pay. It doesn't charge till you get it, but I just wanted to be sure I had enough money with bills and stuff going on. Because I try to get at least whatever the physical book is for whatever people are making. If I can't afford that, I'll get the digital only or whatever, and they'll email it to me and I'll read it on the computer screen. All right. Let's finish this last little bit because I got stuff I got to prep before work tomorrow. But we'll just fill this in. Let's erase the last bit of pencil on this. Where the balloons are. Kevin says he feels in his heart that I will get my funding. Well, thank you, Kevin. I hope we get there too. But yammering about it all year. I don't know if it would have been better to launch at the beginning or whatever, but just wanted to tell as many people about it as I could before it went live, since nobody's ever met Undersea Hero before, except for my college drawing class where I did that silly picture and got a B on it. I'll soften this edge because I like that look. Soften it a little bit. It's going to feel really nice having this drawing done because, like I said, finishing things is what fuels me to get to the next thing. So if it takes me too long, I can get a little bogged down. I don't know if that happens to anybody else, but it definitely happens to me. If it takes too long for me to finish something, it gets harder and harder to finish than it would have if I just stuck to it. I got a B because they didn't like the lettering. I put the lettering on the original painting or drawing, and it was for, just a drawing class. It was not a graphic design course. So I got marked off for that. That was their justification. That professor actually later went on to ask me to come back and speak at their college, which I did because she was a very good professor. I also liked those professors that didn't take any guff from any students, so I appreciated that she thought, she was. Is that Crackus ink? That would be an interesting thing to offer if there was Crackus brand ink to draw with. Maybe someday if an art supply is like, hey, we'll sponsor you. I like how you're thinking. Oh, I missed it. It went over my head. I'm sorry. I missed it. I ruined Kevin's joke. I'm sorry. Did everyone else get it? And I was just the fool that didn't understand. Entirely possible. Sometimes I miss jokes. I don't know. All right. Just a little bit of our trademark Undersea Hero arm hair. Oh, I see. I got you, Kevin. You're right. You're right. It was not a satire class, so I couldn't have gotten away with it. Well, let's sign this puppy and let's call it a night. Might flatten some of this ink out with a second layer tomorrow, but we can do that tomorrow. Our fancy reverse zoom hand crank. And yeah, thanks for coming around and hanging out with me tonight. Needs a little cleanup on the chin there. I didn't notice that. Oh yeah. Hey, thank you everybody. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Desiree, Jonathan, everybody that came out to Rhode Island. And next week, no stream because of moving, but hopefully I'll have everything set up to at least have some sort of stream or modified stream or simple one the following week. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. And yeah, thanks everybody.